Law clerks received no systematic education or training at the firm. Instead, their learning came from reading law books, copying papers, and observing the partners at work. Frequently, the clerks were relatives or friends of the partners or the firm's clients, and no one expected them to contribute materially to the actual legal work of the firm. But to Cravath, the whole arrangement lacked discipline. It was tainted by nepotism, created divided loyalties, and produced mediocrity, not excellence. He decided there had to be a better way. He would hire the best law students, carefully train them, pay them to secure their allegiance, work them to the bone, promote them to partnership if they proved themselves, and send them on their way if they did not. As partners, they would collaborate and share profits. It would become known as the Cravath system, a set of business management principles still in use today by law firms and consulting companies. The system was perfectly geared to the type of lawyer Cravath had become. By the turn of the century, he was one of the growing cadre of corporation or office lawyers who helped create the foundations of modern American business. Working hand in glove with their corporate clients, visionary lawyers such as Cravath were devising and implementing legal strategies that would drive the business world throughout the 20th century. They headed what became known as white shoe firms, named for the white buck shoes worn by generations of Ivy League college men who, as members of the WASP elite, went on to run the leading law, banking, and accounting firms on Wall Street. From the early 19th century to the Gilded Age, which began in the 1870s, the elite members of the bar were those charismatic lawyers whose rhetorical skills enabled them to advocate persuasively in courtrooms. The classic example was the great orator and statesman Daniel Webster, who argued more than 150 cases before the U.S. Supreme Court and won many early landmark decisions. Another familiar image was that of the prairie lawyer Abraham Lincoln, who rode the circuit around the little towns of Illinois, making folksy appeals to juries in disputes over cows, hogs, small-time commercial transactions, and the occasional criminal case. According to legend, he almost always won. At least through the Civil War, businessmen sought out lawyers only when they were ready to fight in court. Clients gave little thought to using lawyers as preventive measures, but the growing industrialization and urbanization of the country in the post-Civil War era, and the increasing number, complexity, and sheer size of corporations, called for a new kind of lawyer, a practical man of business, whose skills were more those of a negotiator, a facilitator, and a drafter of documents than those of a trial advocate. This new breed of high-powered corporation lawyer, originating in New York City around 1890 and flourishing there to this day, made his chief domain the conference room rather than the courtroom. The prototype was Francis Lynde Stetson, a courtly yet steely gentleman known as the Attorney General for the great financier J.P. Morgan. Stetson helped Morgan form the largest companies in the world, including the biggest of them all, U.S. Steel, and tried his best to keep his famous client out of trouble, which was no easy task. There was also William Nelson Cromwell, the silver-tongued business lawyer from Brooklyn who specialized in forming giant new corporations and resuscitating old ones when they went bust. Some critics thought he played close to the line, but none could doubt his resourcefulness. For his role in creating the Panama Canal and the revolution that led to it, he would become the best known of all the early Wall Street lawyers. Elihu Root, a patrician of New England stock, was the quintessential wise man who glided easily between the highest levels of government in Washington and his private legal practice in New York. An elitist, pro-corporate member of the Republican establishment and a strong exponent of an expansionist foreign policy, Root was as responsible as anyone, save the presidents he served under, for transforming America into a world power. Samuel Untermeyer, the rare Jewish Wall Street attorney, was the anti-white shoe corporate lawyer. He became a millionaire representing large corporations, then turned on them with a vengeance.